For that reason, I'm deeply thankful for your participation today. We are recording this debate today, as you just noticed. We are not live streaming today. This event will be recorded and will be made available alongside the debate from last week. And today's debate is about how to develop a user-centered digital transformation in the legislative. And this is a very important topic when a legislature is developing its strategy to understand how it addresses the core issues different teams in the institutions have. So this is why we chose each one of you with a very different experience and point of view. For example, Mr. Adelino is the Secretary General from the Parlamento of East Timor. Mr. Jonathan Ruckert is the CEO of a private company specialized in working with parliaments around the globe. Mr. Djaka is the head of IT from the Parliament of Indonesia. And Mr. Tahir Farooq, he is the legislative director of the National Assembly of Pakistan. So as you can see, all of you have very different experiences. And before we start our conversation today, the idea today is not to have a presentation or to have a more formal form of communication. Today, the idea is for you to interact and to have a conversation, to exchange experiences. So our idea is, before we start our debate, I'd like to invite each one of you to make a very small introduction about yourselves. 30 seconds, 1 minute, just telling about you, what you do in your parliament, your role, and anything you believe to be relevant. In alphabetic order, Mr. Adelino, would you like to begin and introduce yourself?
Muito obrigado e boa tarde a todos os colegas aqui presentes neste encontro. Meu nome, eu sou Adelino Afonso de Jesus e já estou a exercer as funções tanto como funcionário como secretário-geral no Parlamento timorense há 20 anos para cá. Portanto, o nosso Parlamento é um Parlamento com caráter de sistema unicameral, com 65 deputados atuais e desde a segunda legislatura para cá, e também tem os seus processos legislativos que são distintos e possivelmente de outros parlamentos também seriam isso. Por enquanto, da minha parte, é isto que devo apresentar e depois, logo de seguida, vou abordar um bocado sobre o funcionamento básico aqui do nosso Parlamento em Timor-Leste.
Thank you, Adelino, for your introduction. Mr. Djaka, would you like to make a small introduction about yourself?
Ya, terima kasih. Selamat siang. Yang kami hormati, Saudara Antonio, Pak Jonathan, Pak Adelino, dan juga Pak Tahir. Ini merupakan kesempatan yang sangat luar biasa bagi saya, berkesempatan untuk bertemu, bercakap-cakap, berdiskusi bagaimana sebetulnya parlemen ini semakin optimal fungsinya itu. Tentunya dengan teknologi informasi. Sebagai pengantar diskusi, nama saya Djaka Winarko. Saya adalah Kepala Pusat Teknologi Informasi yang ada di DPR RI. Dan sebagai informasi bahwa DPR, Parlemen Indonesia mempunyai concern, mempunyai keinginan yang besar bagaimana teknologi informasi ini menjadi backbone, salah satu tulang punggung dalam pelaksanaan tugas-tugas DPR. Sehingga sebelumnya yang namanya Pusat Teknologi Informasi itu levelnya di eselon 3 ya. Sekarang ini udah 2 tahun terakhir ini dinaikkan menjadi eselon 2 dengan harapan bisa membuat program-program bagaimana mentransformasi kerja-kerja parlemen itu menjadi secara digital gitu. Dan kita sekarang lagi in progress, maka kesempatan ini menjadi sangat berharga bagi kami untuk belajar juga bagaimana proses-proses yang sudah berjalan di parlemen lain. Saya kira itu sebagai pengantar, Pak Antonio. Terima kasih.
Thank you so much, Mr. Djaka, for your short introduction. Jonathan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, my name's Jonathan from NovaWorks. So we've been working with parliaments and authorities around the world for 20 years. So that's why I've got a lot less hair than when I started. So we really do specialize in both the digital strategy and the digital transformations, and what are some of the emerging technologies as well when it actually comes to digital transformation. So whether that be artificial intelligence or even, how do you actually increase both transparency and public citizen facing services as well? So yeah, we've been working for the last 20 years with different parliaments around the world and different sizes, from very small regional parliaments through to big multi-chamber parliaments as well. So I look forward to this debate, and it's very, very, very lovely to meet everyone.
Thank you so much, Jonathan, for your introduction. Tahir, would you like to make a short introduction about you?
Okay, thank you very much for providing me the opportunity to speak over here. I am Tahir Farooq, currently working as Director Legislative Drafting, National Assembly of Pakistan. I am working here since 2016. Before that, I was posted as the Deputy Solicitor to Government of Punjab, and I worked over there for almost 5 years. I am a PhD law scholar and currently performing my duties as Director Legislative Drafting in National Assembly.
Thank you so much, Tahir, for your introduction as well. It's a pleasure to welcome you in our discussion today. To explain to you, colleagues, on the format of our debate today, I have drafted 4 questions for our debate. I will direct each of these questions to one of you, and after the first answer, all of the others will be able to share their comments as well. So the idea is for us to have short answers, and I am advised by my technical team that the interpretation kindly asked if we could speak slowly and clearly so they can manage the interpretation. But the idea is to have a conversation between each one of you, exchanging ideas. And my first question goes exactly to you, Tahir. As I mentioned before in my opening remarks, the technical staff in the legislative, they are the backbone. They are the people who know the institution. They have the history, the tradition of the institution in their work. And also they have the expertise to make the legislature function properly. And my question to you is, in your view, in the National Assembly of Pakistan, what are the main demands from colleagues such as you, the legislative director that works in drafting? What are the main demands from the technical staff that could be solved by using technology? How can you see this point on your parliament today? If you can answer in more or less 2 or 3 minutes, it would be great.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to slightly intimate about the proper procedure of the legislation which is going on here in the Pakistan. This is bicameral system of legislation. Any legislative business can be originated in the Senate as well as in the National Assembly of Pakistan. And similarly, if it is passed by one house, it is transmitted to the other house for the same process. And almost the same process is repeated in both houses, but for a law, it should be passed from both the houses. At the same time, there are certain procedural steps which are to be followed by the legislation branch over here, from the point of drafting till its passage and conversion into a law. When it is as per law of the Pakistan, when it is gazette notified, then it is considered to be applicable across the Pakistan. During the whole process, all the work is to be done on the paper and file. Every file, starting from the lower staff to the Honorable Speaker or to the ultimate authority of the Secretariat goes on paper. Each and every step needs its approval in black and white. Since its history, when the Parliament is working, since then it is going on paper format. Or the staff is usually, what I personally feel, the staff will feel reluctant to go on electronic technology, and instead of the paper and moving the files from one office to the other office. And because in some urgent cases, they used to rush and take the files immediately from one table to the other table for their approval, which seems to be sound and a little bit satisfied, because the file seems to be on their table and in their front in the approved form. The ownership of the approval of the authority will be the main hurdle, which I personally feel in the working of the Secretariat. As far as the technology usage is concerned, they might not be so well equipped and learned about the use of these gadgets and latest technology. They may show little reluctance to use these technologies instead of going in a regular formatted way of taking the file from one table to the other table. So the main hurdle will be from the main objection from their part may be the use of the technology and reluctancy to depend on that technology. In addition to that, there may be the little bit problem about the availability of all these facilities. For example, lack of domain knowledge and availability of the networking facility in the Secretariat, that may also cause a little bit problem. And another thing is the reliability of the source. When you will not be used to of these technologies, then one cannot rely on these technologies and efficiency of that technology, because the history shows in almost 72 years have passed when you are moving from one table to another table with all these files and papers in front of you in physical form, then it will be quite bit difficult to rely on automated form. These are the things which needs the training and reliability of the staff for that latest equipment in the Parliament.
Thank you so much for your considerations, Tahir. Adelino, would you like to share your comments on that? On your view, what are the main demands of technical staff today in the Parliament of East Timor? Adelino, eu creio que seu microfone está desligado. Ah, perfeito.
Desculpa. Quanto às demandas ou exigências que costumamos dizer aqui em Timor, que do pessoal de trabalho, do pessoal de apoio ao Parlamento Nacional, é bem verdade que eles são a espinha dorsal, então são componentes fundamentais que dão apoio técnico e administrativo aos deputados. Ora, quanto à tecnologia, nós não estamos ainda numa fase muito avançada, apesar de termos já 20 anos de existência como Parlamento Nacional. Mas, em todo caso, estamos tentando melhorar, e já há 2 anos para cá que nós estamos o nosso Parlamento está orçamentário com uma verba suficiente para nós podermos começar a utilizar a tecnologia digital, no sentido de, assim como hoje o colega do Paquistão disse, para reduzir como se diz, a utilização de papéis para uma economia de papéis, tanto assim nós estamos já numa fase avançada. Ora, outras demandas aqui dos nossos colegas, dos funcionários aqui, são em vários aspectos. No aspecto de tecnologia digital, demonstram um interesse para quererem aprender. Mas outra demanda também, que até aqui nós ainda continuamos a depender da assistência de expertos internacionais, principalmente na área jurídica, e na elaboração das propostas de lei do Parlamento Nacional. Por enquanto, até aqui, sobre a intervenção do colega do Paquistão.
Thank you so much, Adelino, for your considerations. Mr. Djaka, would you like to share your comments on the main demands of technical staff and the Parliament of Indonesia? Mr. Djaka, can you hear us?
Ya, terima kasih.
Thank you.
Ya, jadi saya kira problemnya mungkin sama ya, bagaimana proses-proses yang ada di parlemen itu bisa kita dari supporting system itu bisa mengcapture, kita bisa cepat mengolah dan juga mentransformasikan atau mendistribusikan kepada stakeholder itu. Agak berbeda mungkin dengan Pakistan ya, karena Pakistan tadi bicameral, kalau di Indonesia adalah unicameral. Jadi problemnya tidak terlalu sulit ya, karena memang cuma dalam satu lembaga gitu, dalam satu lembaga. Bagaimana proses-proses pembuatan undang-undang katakan itu oleh supporting system itu bisa semuanya direcord, semuanya bisa dicatat, dan juga itu akan didistribusikan atau disampaikan kepada seluruh pihak, termasuk kepada pemerintah. Nah, kalau di Indonesia, kita lebih sekarang concern kita itu bagaimana kita memberikan support kepada anggota Dewan terkait dengan data-data informasi yang bisa diolah. Nah, ini sekarang tantangan kita. Makanya sekarang kita lagi mengusulkan menginisiasi proyek pusat data analitik itu nanti yang sangat berguna, sangat bermanfaat untuk anggota DPR, anggota parlemen ketika berdiskusi, ketika berdebat dengan government, dengan eksekutif itu mempunyai cukup alasan-alasan yang rasional dan didasari oleh data-data empirik. Ini yang sekarang kita lagi terus terang aja baru kita bangun, sehingga nanti kita berharap diskusinya itu akan lebih hidup ya, karena anggota parlemen sebagai seorang generalis juga dibekali oleh informasi, data, hasil experience yang itu akan sehingga nanti diskusinya akan lebih berkualitas. Itu saya kira kalau yang untuk di DPR sekarang kita lagi kembangkan itu. Barangkali ada pengalaman dari Pak Jonathan mungkin bagaimana meningkatkan kapasitas supporting system di dalam bidang penyajian atau pengolahan data itu mungkin barangkali kita sangat harapkan. Ya, terima kasih.
Thank you so much, Mr. Djaka, for your considerations. Jonathan, would you like to wrap up this first question with your comments?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much, everyone. And it's been very insightful comments by everyone and understanding what the problems are in each individual parliament. I think one of the things which we always sort of go back to as a fundamental is that the goal of digitization is really to make life easier for both members and for technical staff. And from our experience, if any of the technical solutions make it harder or can't react to changes that happen, say, in the chamber or committees in a real-time manner, then people will actually reject the solution or not trust the solution, just purely because it is making their life harder than it was, say, just grabbing a piece of paper and then moving it from this chamber to that chamber or whatnot, or from this part of the floor to this part of the floor. So I think one of the things we see in technology solutions is really, and what we try to build for parliaments is flexibility is really key to making any technology a successful outcome in Parliament as well. And also with technology is making sure that, I think from a technical staff point of view, where they're serving the members or serving the speaker or whatnot, is that always have a backup plan, always have a plan B with technology. So in the case that you are reliant on your internet connection, but your internet goes down, Parliament still needs to run. So it's making sure that you have a strategy in place for your technical staff that, again, you're not making their life harder there is a plan in place to say, well, if this doesn't work, then fall back to this, and Parliament will still run.
Thank you so much, Jonathan, for your comments. I'd like to go to our second question, and I'd like to direct it to you, Adelino. And I will bring on what Jonathan just shared, because Bússola Tech recently hosted a debate about the main demands and challenges in providing MPs with friendly solutions that not only do not impair with the legislative activities, as Jonathan and many of you were mentioning, but to enable them to exercise their mandates even better. Jonathan actually is one of our witnesses here that from that debate with the colleagues from Brazil, Chile, and the US. And my question to you, Adelino, is on the same line of that past debate. In your view, what are the main demands from members of Parliament for digital solutions in your legislature? And how are you mapping these demands from the different sides of the political spectrum?
Muito bem, muito obrigado por esta pergunta, é muito pertinente para nós, apesar de estarmos ainda numa fase inicial de entrarmos nesta fase de digitalização para o Parlamento. Agora, as exigências ou demandas dos deputados é terem acesso a documentos ou a informações, agendas ou projetos ou propostas de lei, tanto no local do trabalho, no Parlamento Nacional, assim como na sua própria residência, fora da hora do trabalho. Agora, qual é a forma do Parlamento facilitá-los para que pudessem ter acesso a qualquer altura e em qualquer sítio? Então, neste momento, nós estamos a preparar uma aquisição de facilidades, como, por exemplo, modem, né? Ou como é que se diz, uma rede de internet móvel, e depois nós providenciamos portáteis para cada um dos deputados, embora, é claro, que nem todos os deputados terão a capacidade de poder utilizar ou fazer funcionar essas facilidades. Mas nós acreditamos que, se um ou outro deputado não tiver a possibilidade de poder rentabilizar estas facilidades, certamente que eles têm, por cada bancada parlamentar, como designamos aqui, por cada força política da sua bancada parlamentar, tem funcionários que apoiam, ou mesmo ser em casa. E certamente com esta era de avanço da tecnologia e de educação, certamente um deles poderá ter um filho, um sobrinho, ou qualquer parente que os possa facilitar. Portanto, assim, a demanda é isto. Os deputados manifestam que querem ter o acesso a todos os documentos ou a todas as referências do trabalho, tanto no Parlamento, assim como no local onde se encontrarem.
Thank you, Adelino, for your considerations. I just have to highlight a point here, because when I mentioned your participation to colleagues here in Brazil, many of them from the Senate highlighted the partnership they have with the Parlamento Nacional of East Timor, and your particular leadership and engagement on modernizing your parliament. So this is a testament for the importance of cooperation between the institutions. I'd like to invite Tahir to share his comments as well. Tahir, would you like to share your thoughts on these questions?
Yes, thank you very much. I would like to add a few things in continuation to that. First of all, I second all these proposals which are placed before us, before all the panelists. I agree with these all proposals. In addition to that, while talking about the Pakistan and specifically National Assembly, for determination of the demands of member parliamentarians, it is necessary to know the stages of the interference and the role of the parliamentarians during the legislative business. Because there are basically 3 stages during the legislative process at which the member parliaments can have their role. First of all, at the time of introduction of any bill before the House. Secondly, before in the deliberations before the committee, and finally and lastly, when the bill returned from the committee to the Parliament to the National Assembly for its passage. At all these three stages, there is, as well as another thing which I missed in the previous discussion, was that there is a bicameral, in addition to the bicameral, there is a bilingual system of legislation in Pakistan. One in its national language Urdu and the other is in English. Any document which is placed before the House is printed in both languages, in English as well as Urdu. There are 342 members of the National Assembly, and we usually use to print for a single event. Event means at the stage of introduction, at the stage of committee, as well as at the stage of passage. And at every stage, we use to print 500 copies of each bill, which is not only the wastage of huge sources in the paper format, as well as the energy and labor. Although these are used to be typed and printed by using of all these gadgets, through which we can use the modern technology to facilitate all the members and share them in the soft copy for their perusal. But at the same time, the members also does not supposed to be use their legislative and digital formats, and they usually insist for the use of hard copies, which are either placed on their tables at the time of the sitting of the assembly, as well as before 3 days of the sitting. They are also posted at their residences for their advanced perusal. Even then, they were demanding the copies at the floor of the House and complaining that they have not yet received the copies of that. So I personally feel that it is a huge wastage of the sources as well as the money, because all of each one of us and even every individual who is little literate about the technology has a gadget in his own hand in the form of a smartphone. You can simply go to the concerned paper, concerned bill, or concerned resolution which is to be debated before the House by a single click of your hand. At the same time, if they should be properly educated upon the use of these technologies, it will be much more efficient for the saving of the financial resources as well as the safety of the energy, and all these sources will be protected by their education about use of these technologies.
Thank you so much, Tahir, for your considerations. Jonathan, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we're finding is a bit of a trend across all the parliaments we work with members is really about quick access to information and reliable access as well. So when we look at it, members really have to make decisions in a timely manner. And, you know, sometimes on the floor and in the chamber of parliament too. And one of the biggest sort of areas of concern is that they want to ensure that large amounts of information, because that's, you know, as sort of Tahir was saying, is that when you have a bill, the bill might be hundreds of pages long. And how can a member, can they digest all of that information and understand that information to make a informed and accurate decision as well? So members are wanting, how do you say, provide automated summaries of bills, or how do you actually condense some of this information into targeted information where they can make better decisions in a timely manner, you know, so they can move on to their next task? Or other things which we see in the digitized world is that members want reminders on when things are due. So a central dashboard so they can look at everything that they need today, because they have a lot on, they have a lot to do, you know, within their sort of constituencies as well. You know, what meetings do I have on? What do I have to review today? What actions do I need to perform? And what do I need to review? So we can create sort of a dashboard for all members, whether they're at home or at their office or whether actually within the floor of Parliament. It's really about how do you get targeted, personalized information through to what is relevant to that member themselves.
Thank you so much, Jonathan, for your considerations. Mr. Djaka, would you like to share your thoughts on what the colleagues just said?
Ya, terima kasih. Saya kira itu menjadi tuntutan ya, tuntutan yang terus berkembang, ekspektasi yang tinggi dari anggota, bagaimana layanan-layanan kita, baik layanan yang sifatnya administrasi maupun keahlian, itu bisa terus ditingkatkan. Dan memang benar, tadi kata kuncinya adalah teknologi informasi. Tapi saya ingin juga tadi Jonathan sudah sampaikan menyebut-nyebut mengenai konstituensi gitu ya, konstituen gitu ya. Jadi selain kita tadi banyak kita diskusikan di ruang-ruang rapat, ruang-ruang sidang, ada bagian yang tidak kalah penting yang saya kira sangat strategis, bagaimana relasi antara anggota parlemen dengan konstituennya, dengan konstituensinya. Nah ini salah satu juga IT sangat-sangat pegang peranan gitu ya, karena anggota mestinya hubungan relasinya itu menjadi sangat dekat gitu ya dengan konstituennya. Nah ini dengan IT saya kira bisa dilakukan sehingga berbagai macam aspirasi yang berkembang di daerah pemilihan itu dapat direkam, dapat direcord, dapat dianalisa dan dapat diperjuangkan dalam perdebatan-perdebatan di ruang-ruang sidang, baik di bidang legislasi, pengawasan maupun anggaran. Dalam konteks ini saya ingin sampaikan, kalau di DPR sekarang kita sudah punya ada yang namanya rumah aspirasi ya. Setiap anggota itu mempunyai rumah aspirasi yang difasilitasi oleh APBN, oleh negara untuk mendekatkan anggota dengan yang diwakili. Nah, cuma memang belum didukung oleh IT ini. Jadi ini masih secara fisikly masih ada kantor gitu ya. Nah ini yang sekarang kita lagi bangun, mungkin Jonathan mungkin ada best practices di parlemen lain bagaimana sebetulnya IT mendekatkan antara anggota-anggota parlemen yang biasanya berada di ibu kota negara dengan konstituennya yang dalam konteks di Indonesia itu kesebar di sekitar 80 daerah pemilihan. Nah, saya kira itu juga menjadi penting bagaimana kita relasi antara anggota dengan konstituensinya itu bisa lebih dekat dan berkualitas sehingga itu menjadi bagian dalam proses pengambilan keputusan oleh anggota parlemen. Saya kira itu, Luís.
Thank you, Mr. Djaka, for your comments. Mr. Djaka, I would like to bring the following question to you, if you allow me. And this question is, what are the actions taken by the Parliament to map and to understand the priorities of different legislative areas and users? We are very well familiar with, for example, the procedural area, such as the Secretary General or the clerk. We have the Hansard area that handles the transcript, the drafters that handles the drafting of legislation, and many others. I could stay here all night saying different applications for the legislative process. So my question to you is, how does your digital transformation strategy contemplate the need to support users who are not digital ready, who are used to do things manually or in an offline way? How can you transition them to the online? How can you transition them to the digital in your parliament?
Ya, terima kasih Luís. Jadi ketika kita bicara transformasi digital, bagaimana kita meningkatkan, mengoptimalkan penggunaan teknologi informasi, di situ bukan hanya masalah teknis, ada juga masalah-masalah culture ya, masalah-masalah kebudayaan, masalah-masalah budaya. Karena ini merubah cara berpikir, cara kerja itu tidak mudah gitu. Teknologi bisa kita beli sepanjang kita punya anggarannya, tapi merubah culture itu tidak mudah. Tapi tetap itu harus kita lakukan dan itu menjadi tuntutan kita gitu ya. Dalam konteks ini kalau di parlemen preferensi atau mungkin pilihan-pilihan strategi bagaimana melaksanakan pekerjaan dalam periode 5 tahun, karena periode di parlemen di DPR itu ada 5 tahun, itu kita memang di awal periode biasanya menyusun yang namanya prolegnas, program legislasi nasional, di mana itu bagian dari Renstra, rencana strategis. Itu disusun nanti tiap tahun juga akan ditentukan prioritas-prioritasnya. Nah, itu yang kalau dari konteks di anggota. Tapi kalau yang paling penting sebetulnya yang kita diskusikan ini kan sebetulnya di level supporting system. Nah, di level supporting system kita tentu harus mempunyai perencanaan yang panjang bagaimana transformasi digital ini dilakukan. Dalam konteks ini di Sekretariat Jenderal DPR kita alhamdulillah kita udah punya yang namanya rencana induk teknologi informasi atau grand design lah teknologi informasi yang kita susun di tahun 2020 yang akan nanti berlaku sampai di 2025. Nah, itulah dari tahun ke tahun apa yang kita lakukan sudah tergambar di situ, sehingga dari situ nanti kita bisa menyusun anggarannya, menyiapkan anggarannya. Dan yang penting tadi saya sampaikan tadi bagaimana merubah ya cara pikir, cara kerja yang semula sangat konvensional berubah menjadi digital. Ini ya mau tidak mau memang harus kita paksa. Sedikit kita paksa dengan aturan-aturan, dengan regulasi-regulasi, dengan kebijakan-kebijakan, sehingga orang dipaksa, kalau dia tidak melakukan itu, nanti dia akan tertinggal, dia akan tidak bisa melakukan pekerjaannya. Dan tentunya juga ada pendampingan-pendampingan, ada bimbingan teknik gitu ya, teknis gitu, dan ada evaluasi. Sehingga transformasi digital tadi benar-benar bisa dilaksanakan dan sesuai dengan harapan kita itu. Saya kira itu, Saudara Luís. Makasih.
Thank you, Mr. Djaka, for your considerations. Jonathan, would you like to comment on what Mr. Djaka just said?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that insightful information as well around it. So I think when we look at the digital Parliament strategy, it's important to look at it as obviously a holistic view, and then from that point you have each individual department as an example, and each of your different legislative areas have different demands, and understanding that there are synergies and there are sort of interconnects between all of this. So really the goal is to make sure that you reduce the amounts of duplication of information and the double handling of information. And also, how do you then look at them presenting that what we call a single pane of glass or a single source of truth to both everyone internally, but also to the citizens as well. So when you look at your transcription or your Hansard, or you may have different priorities for when you introduce a bill, but a bill will have to be voted on, which may be a different department as well. So it's understanding what those synergies are from a digital strategy point of view, and then making sure that they are aligned with what your, say, master plan is as well. And I think it's important around any digital strategy transformation around how do you support those users who are not digital ready is really about giving people options and coming back down to flexibility as well. I know in Australia that some of the regional members don't have or don't have a need to want to actually understand how to access email, and they want to delegate those tasks through to their staff as an example. So so it's understanding that there will always be certain types of users who will still not accept a digital transformation. And it's understanding what the strategy is to cope and to cater for those types of users as well. And and delegation or other sort of forms, because you can't necessarily stop the overall strategy from a parliament because of one person or a group of users, as an example.
Thank you so much, Jonathan, for your considerations. Adelino, would you like to comment on that? Adelino, seu microfone está desligado.
Desculpa. É uma abordagem muito interessante, principalmente do colega da Indonésia. Nesta questão, é uma questão que nós enfrentamos também, por ser que noutros países é a mesma coisa, é a mudança de mentalidade. Nós podemos mudar a tecnologia de manual ou convencional para digital, mas enquanto não houver mudança de mentalidade, que é um dilema difícil de nós enfrentarmos, portanto, neste momento nós temos este problema. Agora, na última pergunta que colocou, como aqui no Parlamento Nacional estabelece um plano para as atividades parlamentares. Assim como hoje o colega da Indonésia já pronunciou, embora tenhamos alguma diferença só no prazo de elaboração do plano. Nós, no Parlamento de Timor-Leste, temos um plano de desenvolvimento estratégico parlamentar. Fora do plano estratégico de todo o Estado, o Parlamento próprio tem o seu plano de desenvolvimento do Parlamento Nacional, com a duração de 3 anos. Porque aqui a legislatura prevalece por 5 anos, então o plano teria que ser só 3 anos para poder, na mesma legislatura, fazer uma revisão do plano estabelecido, se implementou ou não durante estes 3 anos. Ora, eu gostaria de colocar uma pergunta ao Sr. Jonathan, assim com largas experiências com muitos parlamentos. Hoje abordou-se com uma questão de propostas ou projetos de lei com muitas páginas, centenas de páginas, como é que o deputado ou o legislador pode ter acesso e ter vantagem de ler aquilo tudo? Certamente que não. E talvez da experiência do Sr. Jonathan, que falou numa questão de resumir. Agora, resumir sim, isso, pensando bem que um resumo é necessário, mas da sua experiência com outros, no trabalho com os outros parlamentos, existe alguma organização dentro de algum parlamento que trabalha só para elaborar um resumo destas propostas ou de projetos de lei com tantas páginas? Isto é uma pergunta minha. Por enquanto, da minha parte, é isto.
Thank you so much, Adelino, for your comment and for your question to Jonathan. Jonathan, if you allow me, I'd like to yield the floor to Tahir first, so we can finish this round, and then I yield the floor back to you so you can answer Adelino, if you allow me this small favor. Tahir, would you like to share your comments as well?
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to go to the comment of Jonathan, who said about the quick and reliable access of these documents, the availability of these documents to the parliamentarians especially. In this perspective, I would like to add over here that here in the National Assembly of Pakistan, a proper developed website is available with the name of the National Assembly. Excuse me. According to which all the documents, even from the notice of the meeting agenda of the House business, as well as all the bills introduced in the House and processed in the House, are quickly available at the website of the National Assembly. In addition to that, there are almost 38 standing committees working under the Parliament, in addition to the parliamentary committees and public accounts committees. All the secretary of the concerned committees are directed by the Secretariat to maintain a proper WhatsApp group account or as a face or as a email group account, through which all the material for the upcoming meeting is transmitted to them in the short format. But even then, they claim or demand for the availability of any hard form of the document before deliberations on that. If they are supposed to be having expertise And as said by Adelino, that the one should try to get rid from the conventional type of the procedures. If you go to the latest modern technologies, then they can simply go to the website of the National Assembly, quick download the concerned bill, even if it consists of 100 pages or 500 pages, doesn't matter for that. And even if they want to go to any specific provision of that, they can go for the search of the section 20, section 30, or the punishment of any offense or the definition of any offense. They can just go and get it from the quick access of the concerns. But the dilemma is the lack of knowledge and expertise, in addition to non-adaptability of the latest technology, because they don't want to be adopted by that, and they just rely on the hard copies of the format, which is the main barrier before for the use and adoption of the latest technologies. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tahir, for your comments. Before I go to the last question that it is for Jonathan, actually. I'd like to allow Jonathan a few moments to answer Adelino's comments and his questions as well. Jonathan, feel free to.
Thank you so much for that question. It's a very pertinent and important question. And when we look at any form of summarization, whether that be automated, is that when you look at bills and you have a massive amount of content and a lot of different clauses and amendments and everything within those bills, and a lot of work which we see is actually occurring is that the members' staff or even the political party itself is performing a lot of that analysis over a proposed draft bill or a private member's bill or whatnot, and giving that sort of consolidated information through to a member, you know, to make those sort of informed decisions. Or it might have a trigger clause, or it might have a sunset clause, or it might have a few other clauses which are provocative, as an example. And so what we tend to focus on is really what information, you know, or what topics, or what sentiment, and also what are the key constructs in terms of when we actually look at either a bill or a citizen submission, as an example, for a committee or a inquiry. So when a committee actually is sitting or asking for the public's interaction or the submissions from the public to say, what does the public think about topic A? You know, an organization might present, you know, a 50-page document as well. So they might have 100 submissions or 20,000 submissions that they have to actually review. So we're not sort of, you know, saying that I think that summarization is the way to go for absolutely everything. But what it does, though, is that you try to use summarization to narrow the focus of where a member should be looking at to really get enough detail, or do they need to look at something in a lot more detail based on that information if they're reviewing a significant amount of content. So we're not saying that summarization will replace the complete bill, but what we're saying is that how do we make it easier so that the member can focus on where they should, rather than have to read the same clause, which they may be repeated or in 50 other bills as an example, and they already understand those concepts.
Thank you so much, Jonathan, for your answer and your comments. And my last question of the debate is for you with the comment of the other colleagues. And Jonathan, we know that private companies such as NovaWorks that you lead and civil society organizations can be powerful allies of technical staff in the digital transformation and the legislative, both at the national and subnational level as well. Their battle-tested solutions can help legislatures to escape common pitfalls and deliver effective solutions to technical staff and members of parliament. My question to you is, in your view, what are the most common challenges for a legislature starting their digital journey? And what are your recommendations for it to answer its MPs and the technical staff's demands?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. It's a very interesting one for me, and so like dealing with lots of different parliaments gives me a different perspective on some of these sort of bits and pieces. One of the sort of areas which we see around digital transformation is that sometimes parliaments feel alone, and they feel like they have to invent everything for the first time. And like these forums and these debates which we have like with the Bússola Tech as an example are really important, I think, when you look at digital transformation and what are the common challenges when it sort of, you know, is understanding when you're starting your journey is that others have actually done some of this before. So, you know, a lot of parliaments try to transform everything at once, as an example. And we've seen that quite a few times where our sort of philosophy is that you transform areas of strategic importance first, and then you don't have to necessarily try to transform everything at once, because parliaments need to continue running, you know, on a day-to-day basis. So, you know, to transform everything at once, especially with, you know, the size of Parliament where Tahir is, you know, where you have 340 members, is going to be a very big challenge if you try to transform everything at once, versus say some of the other parliaments which we deal with, which only have 25 members. So it's a very significant difference, but the same strategy can be applied to both, as an example. So you can tackle like your voting, or you could tackle petitions or committees or tabling of papers individually, but all towards a common holistic goal. And also, I think the biggest sort of takeaway for me is also talk to other parliaments and understand what their journey has been like. And some parliaments which we've been talking to through Luís and Bússola Tech, they're quite advanced in their journey, and some parliaments are literally just starting off and trying to understand, and they don't necessarily know where to start. So leveraging these sort of forums can assist with where do you actually start, and also what's important to your parliament, because every parliament is different, and that's an important part to actually understand.
Thank you so much, Jonathan, for your considerations. Mr. Djaka, would you like to comment? Mr. Djaka, I think you're muted.
Ya, saya bukan masukan, justru saya mungkin minta pendapat ya, ini terutama dari Jonathan ya, yang ada di parlemen kita, di DPR. Itu terkait dengan bagaimana jalannya rapat itu kita transfer ansat lah, bagaimana prosesnya ya, jalannya rapat itu bisa ditransfer dalam bentuk tulisan ya gitu ya. Itu kan menjadi penting karena sebetulnya bagi parlemen itu yang namanya risalah rapat itu adalah kekayaan utama parlemen, tambangnya ya. Tambangnya parlemen itu kekayaannya itu adalah risalah. Nah, ini problem yang dihadapi masih di DPR itu antara apakah kita menggunakan alat ataukah kita kembali tetap menggunakan manusia gitu ya, menggunakan secara konvensional dengan cara steno gitu ya. Karena ini plus minus juga ya, dan prakteknya di beberapa negara juga berbeda-beda. Ini saya mungkin minta pendapat aja dari Pak Jonathan atau mungkin juga dari Pak Farooq, Pak Tahir, atau juga Pak Adelino, barangkali seperti apa ya. Kita juga masih mencari bentuk yang tepat ini, karena setiap pekerjaan di parlemen itu awalnya sebetulnya dari risalah tadi. Risalah itu adalah kekayaan utama dari parlemen yang harus dikelola dan juga diolah, itu menjadi bahan yang sangat berharga, baik untuk parlemen maupun juga untuk masyarakat. Ya, saya kira itu, Saudara Luís. Terima kasih.
Thank you, Mr. Djaka. Before I yield the floor to Tahir to also share his comment, I'll yield the floor back to Jonathan to very briefly share his thoughts. Jonathan?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Djaka. So in terms of Hansard and transcription, and so we do broadcasting or the video recording and how we can then use that, but we always tend to also use humans, and so as part of this process as well. So as an example, some Parliament would have a we use artificial intelligence to get the live captioning, which we can then use for Hansard later. But humans still are processing Hansard because it depends on your editorial standards, as an example. So whether you have verbatim Hansard or transcripts, or whether you actually edit those transcripts as well. So there are a range of different ways which you can produce those transcripts, either in the more traditional sense or more the verbatim sense as well. So there are a lot of good solutions out there which can assist with that.
Thank you, Jonathan, for your comments. Tahir, would you like to share your thoughts as well?
Yeah, thank you very much. I just want to add as a conclusion of all the debate and what I personally feel is that the main hindrance for the use of modern technology is nothing more than the hesitation and reluctance to adopt that. Because I have experienced in the Pakistan during COVID days when it was at the peak, the session of the National Assembly as well as the meetings of the committees was conducted on online mode, video cam facility, and it was recorded properly and it was conducted. The business of the house was not stopped even in the lockdown days. And it was just a reluctance in the initial 2 or 3 meetings on virtual facilitation method. When they use the virtual facilitation method, the honorable members and parliamentarians, even the staff, feel it more comfortable than the conventional and ordinary mode of the physical presence and using all these methods while traveling from the other side of the Pakistan and reach in the capital to join that meeting. It was more comfortable for them to participate and deliberate upon the issues of the public importance while sitting from their own constituencies. So I personally feel this is only the main barrier is the reluctance and hesitation, not the education or the proper training. They get used to of it when they go through it once or twice. So the first 2 or 3 sessions, maybe they will have bit difficulty. And once they got through it, and it will be more comfortable and economical as well. You use of the paper, wastage of the paper will be reduced, as well as wastage of the energy, wastage of the human resources as well. I would like to say this. It all will be saved by use of these modern technologies, and it is not a difficult thing to be adopted by the Parliament. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tahir, for your considerations. Adelino, would you like to share your thoughts as well?
Obrigado. Eu sou da mesma opinião que do colega do Paquistão, que nós não podemos, por enquanto, pressionar o uso da tecnologia digital, porque isto precisa de um processo que gradualmente, a par do uso manual ou convencional e digital também. É o que está acontecendo conosco. Nós temos vindo desde o início da Parlamento timorense, uma das questões que hoje o colega da Indonésia falou sobre a gravação das reuniões, dos encontros. Sim, é uma coisa muito válida e como sendo um documento de arquivo para a memória da instituição. Tanto assim que, falando de transcrições, aqui nós fazemos no Parlamento de Timor-Leste, além da gravação de áudio e vídeo, também fazemos uma transcrição regular, e esta transcrição guardamos em livros encadernados, como também uma memória para o futuro. Ora, eu juro que da minha parte é isto. O que mais me interessa hoje foi a questão de uso de transcrição, e depois o colega da Indonésia falou também de estenografia. Estenografia, também nós tentamos estabelecer uma cooperação com o Brasil, que não é estenografia, mas sim é taquigrafia. Mas em todo caso, até que ainda não utilizamos, tentamos enviar os nossos técnicos para a Câmara dos Deputados do Brasil, mas pronto, até que ainda não conseguimos, tanto assim que continuamos ainda com os nossos métodos optados desde a primeira legislatura até este momento.
Thank you so much, Adelino, for your comments. We are reaching the end of our debate today. And before I yield the floor back to each one of you to say your final considerations, I'd like to take advantage of what Jonathan just mentioned on how important it is for parliaments to exchange experiences in debates and forums such as this one. And I'd like to give you a spoiler that in September we have our annual conference. Due to COVID, it will be virtual still, and it will be between the 12th and the 16th of September. We're going to welcome colleagues from all the regions in the globe, not only Asia, but the Americas, Europe, Africa, Oceania, and Asia as well. It will be a 5-day conference, 50 hours of debates, of presentations. So I believe colleagues from other regions would find extremely value on your expertise, on what you shared here today. And also maybe colleagues from other regions are doing interesting work on some of your concerns today. So I'd like to leave here the invitation for all of you to join us. Obviously, I will send you an individual invitation, but here's our official first save the date for all of you. I'd like to invite each one of you to share your final thoughts. I will do it alphabetically. So, Adelino, would you like to say your final considerations on today's debate?
Muito obrigado, e mais uma vez, eu sinto que tem muito proveito, porque nós estamos a tentar trocar impressões, trocar experiências parlamentares, dos que têm ricas experiências com parlamentos de largos anos, assim como nós, que temos pouca experiência, porque só agora completamos 20 anos, mas é sempre útil, porque cada parlamento e cada país tem a sua característica própria, e tem o seu sistema parlamentar próprio. Tanto assim, para mim, é muito valioso este encontro. Espero que nos próximos, por exemplo, se está já calendarizado para o próximo setembro, da nossa parte, estarei eu ou outro na minha posição, mas o certo é que este encontro de troca de experiência de parlamentos é muito útil, e vou transmitir aos meus superiores para continuarmos a participar e contribuir neste encontro. Muito obrigado a todos e bem-aja.
Muito obrigado, Adelino. Thank you, Adelino. Mr. Djaka, would you like to share your final comments on today's debate?
Ya, terima kasih. Saya kira sama dengan Pak Adelino ya, Pak ya. Forum ini saya kira penting, kita penting dan bermanfaat. Ini untuk tukar pengalaman, mungkin tukar pengalaman dan juga pengetahuan gitu ya. Karena apa? Kita ini anggota parlemen itu kan keluar masuk gitu ya, istilahnya setiap periode dia bisa tetap di parlemen, bisa juga keluar dan datang lagi parlemen anggota yang baru. Sementara kita di supporting system ini ya tetap permanen di situ gitu, sehingga kita tentu mempunyai kewajiban bagaimana kita lebih memberikan pelayanan yang lebih baik lagi, bagaimana supaya anggota-anggota parlemen itu bisa berkinerja dengan baik. Salah satunya ya tadi yang kita diskusikan, ya solusi teknologi informasi itu sangat penting untuk kita bisa meningkatkan pelayanan kita kepada Dewan. Sehingga kita berharap Dewan nanti bisa melahirkan keputusan-keputusan yang tentunya baik juga gitu ya, karena prosesnya baik, inputnya baik, mudah-mudahan putusannya juga baik untuk kepentingan rakyat tentunya. Saya kira itu. Terima kasih.
Thank you so much, Mr. Djaka, for your participation today and for your expertise you shared with us. Jonathan, would you like to share your final thoughts?
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to thank everyone on the panel today. It's been very insightful for me, and to learn where everyone is at with their digital transformation. And it's very exciting to see that you are embarking on that journey as well. And you know, I think my takeaway is know that there is support out there for you, and you know, there are parliaments out there who are willing to help, and obviously companies, you know, or such as us, NovaWorks here, we've been working with lots of different island nations and you know, different counties and different countries around the world, and you know, we try to foster, as Bússola Tech does as well, that notion of community. And the notion of not trying to reinvent the wheel, I think, is really important for every parliament, because you know, at the end of the day, everyone pays their bills and taxes, and it's really important that you know, that it works well, and we don't waste, you know, money and resources.
Thank you so much, Jonathan, for your participation and your thoughts. Tahir, would you like to share your final thoughts as well?
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to add that there is no doubt that the digitalization or transformation to the digital technology is the need of the time, which will not only add in the performance of the institute, but it will also add expertise and efficiencies in the performance and delivery of that institute, which should be adopted as a first preference from the institute, so that a systematic approach for the delivery and performance could be achieved. And lastly, I would like to thank all of you for patience and bearing me and providing me the opportunity to be a part of this. And especially thanks to your organization, as well as for your kindness and your facilitation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tahir, for your comments and for your participation. And before we end, just two small communications. First, if you allow me, I will send an email introducing all of you, so all of you have your contacts. And secondly, I'd like to recognize the effort of our interpretation team that made all of this conversation possible. I think they are the living proof that it doesn't matter the language barrier or any cultural or time zone barrier. We are all trying to modernize parliaments, and we're trying to exchange experiences. So it's that there is always a way. If we can do a debate in 3 different languages to discuss digital transformation, I think we can do anything to modernize our parliament. So thank you so much for your participation. It was an honor to moderate this panel with you today.